take the opportunity to explain to you the relationship between the firm that is seeking financing from the capital market and the investors in the capital market who provide the financing. So how does that relationship work in practice? So imagine that we have here a firm that is seeking capital to invest in projects. So it wants to build factories, it wants to establish a distribution network, it needs money. It doesn't have enough money of its own. So what does the firm do? Well, it issues securities in the capital market. So it goes to the capital market and it issues securities, and these securities are purchased by investors. So if we go all the way here, then we have investors who purchase the securities issued by the firm. Now, what sort of securities does the firm issue? Well, this firm issues a whole variety of securities. These are debt securities, they issue equity, they issue preferred stock, they issue a variety of different securities, and these securities are then purchased by investors in the capital market. Now, because they purchase these securities, they're paying money to the firm. So there's cash coming in from the investors who buy the securities that are going out from the firm to these investors. Okay. Now, what does the firm do with the money that it raises by selling these securities? Well, the firm is now going to formulate a strategy. This is something we'll talk about in the course. And the strategy is going to determine how the firm does its capital budgeting, which is simply the process by which it decides how to invest this money in projects. Which projects does the firm choose to invest in? Okay. Now, these investments are going to then produce cash flow. So these investments first take in cash, but then over many periods, they also produce cash flows. Now, once these cash flows come out of the firm has to make a decision. How much of these cash flows does it want to reinvest in the firm? That's this arrow. Meaning, how much of this money, how much of this cash flow do we want to reinvest in supporting growth, in expanding plant capacity, in expanding our distribution network, in hiring a bigger sales force, in financing working capital. So all of those things take money. So how much of this cash flow gets reinvested in the firm is a decision that the firm has to make in line with its capital budgeting practices. But then at the same time, they're also going to decide how much to pay out. Okay, so how much of this money is going to be paid back to the investors who invested in the firm? Okay, and this decision is called the firm's payout policy. And it's something we'll talk about in the course as well. So how much do I pay out via dividends? How much am I paying out in the form of debt interest? And so on. But payout policy determines how the firm is going to repay the investors who purchased the firm's securities to provide it with the cash that the firm then used to invest in projects. And then once the cash flow comes out, the firm decides how much to reinvest, how much to pay out to the investors. So in this simple chart, I've explained to you three fundamentally important decisions that every firm has to make. And we'll discuss how these decisions are made, what's the optimal decision, which is the issuance of securities, the mix of securities with which to raise financing, strategy and capital budgeting, which is number 2, and that's how do we then use this money to invest in projects that will produce future cash flows. And then the third decision is payout policy, which is how do we then take the cash flows that these projects produce and divide them up among the different investors who purchased our securities, and then how much of the cash flow goes back into the firm to support the growth of the business. So this, in a nutshell, is a picture of how the firm interacts with the capital market, how it finances itself, and how it provides a return to investors in the capital market that they will then price. So these are all issues that we'll be discussing in this course. I want you to keep this chart in mind as we go through these different topics in the course. Thank you.